He shouldn't have been there, but he was, and looking right at her. Emily Carter worked at the Maple Root Diner for 6 years, long enough to know when someone didn't fit in, and to understand that sometimes it wasn't the food or the road or the weather that made a night awkward, it was people. That night, shortly after 9 p.m., when the wind was blowing hard against the windows, and the parking lot was so empty you could hear the buzzing of the streetlights, Emily saw a man sitting at table 7, a man she hadn't seen come in. The diner door always creaked, always. It was impossible for anyone to walk through it without making a sound, but she didn't throw anything. No creaking, no footsteps, no sound of chairs being dragged. He simply appeared, and that's when the night started to go off the rails. Table 7 tucked away at the back of the room, near the old clock that was always 10 minutes slow. It was the favorite table of the retired truckers, the ones who showed up every Wednesday to complain about life and drink weak coffee. But that night I was occupied by a man who didn't seem to belong to any of the groups that frequented the place. Emily observed the man carefully. Brown coat, unshaven beard, grey hair disheveled, as if he'd spent the day fighting the wind. His face was partially hidden behind the menu, but there was something about his posture, the way he stood still, that made Emily uneasy. The strangest thing, the menu was upside down. Emily adjusted her apron, took a deep breath, and walked to the table. It was her job. And in a way, it was also her instinct. Something in her wanted to understand who he was and why he seemed so out of place in such a common spot. "Good evening," she said with her automatic smile. "May I start by getting your drink?" Nothing. He didn't answer. He didn't even look at her. He just kept staring at the upside-down menu as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Emily tried again. "Sir, any drinks while you look at the menu?" This time, the man only moved his eyes, slowly, as if each movement was too heavy. And then, finally, she saw his face completely and felt an unexpected shiver, not because he was scary, but because there was something in his expression, a deep weariness mixed with fear, real fear, not the kind you see in someone late for work. It was the fear of someone who had seen something they shouldn't have. "Iced tea," he said. His voice came out weak, hoarse, as if it hadn't been used in days. "That's all," Emily agreed. "Iced tea. I'll be right back." As she walked back to the counter, she saw something else. The man hadn't turned any pages of the menu, not one. And she was absolutely certain there wasn't a single new car in the parking lot. Jenny, a cook, noticed something strange. "Did you see that face?" she said, wiping the counter. "I did. He looks lost. Did you open the door when he came in?" "No, neither did I." Jenny crossed her arms. "And that door hasn't opened by itself since 1999. Emily tried to laugh, but the unease wouldn't let her. She prepared the iced tea at automatic speed, but her mind was stuck on table 7. Something was wrong, very wrong. She went back to the dining room, past the empty tables, and placed the glass in front of the man. "Here you go." He didn't thank her. She just looked at the glass for a few seconds, and then, without warning, she pushed something toward her. A brown envelope, ordinary, no name, no label, nothing written on it. "This is for you," he said. Emily frowned. "For me? Why?" The man moistened his lips, as if he were about to tell her something important, something that had weighed on his chest for a long time. But before answering, he looked at the restaurant door. Emily instinctively heard the look. That's when she saw it. 3 men entering, dark coats, rigid postures, gazes that swept the room with professional precision. The man at table 7 swallowed hard. Emily felt his fear as if it were a scent in the air. The 3 newcomers didn't justify being customers, not travelers. They seemed like the kind of people who enter a place looking for someone and finding them. The man at table 7 leaned slightly toward Emily and murmured, so low she barely heard, "Don't open here." The three men walked slowly through the room, analyzing every corner, every table, every person. Emily gripped the envelope with involuntary force. She didn't know what was inside, but she knew it wasn't just a simple piece of paper. And look at something else. The man at table 7 was trembling. Emily froze. The phrase hammered in her head like an old warning, one of those you hear as a child and never forget. Don't open it here. Those 3 words weren't a request, they were a command, and they came imbued with a fear so dense it seemed almost palpable. The man took a step back, his eyes wide, searched every corner of the room. It wasn't his usual behavior, and someone frightened by something possible. It was someone who knew exactly what could happen. "What's here?" Emily asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He took a deep breath, as if preparing to admit something he'd spent his whole life avoiding. They can't know you're with me." Emily frowned. "Who are they?" He hesitated. His hand trembled as he touched his chest, as if he felt something inside, something wrong, something placed there. And then he spoke. "Those men, they're not police officers, and they're not here for me. They're here for you." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. It was ridiculous, meaningless. She was just a woman trying to get home after a long day. Nothing special. No one would follow her in black vans, much less men in dark coats. "You're confused," she said. "They were following you. They came into the diner because of you." The man shook his head. "No, they only appeared after you went in. They weren't after me until then." Emily opened her mouth to retort, but the memory came like a flash. Her entering the diner, the door opening behind her, the 3 men walking right after, unhurried, as if they had found what they were looking for. She swallowed hard. Why? What could I possibly have that was so important? He closed his eyes for a moment, like someone trying to decide whether to tell the truth or try to protect the person. "Because you saw what you shouldn't have." Emily's eyes widened. "What? I didn't see anything." "You did," he insisted, "even if you didn't realize it. Something in that coffee shop, something you registered unintentionally. They noticed it right away. And if you remember, they lose control." Emily took a step back. Her heart was pounding too hard. It wasn't possible. She hadn't seen anything extraordinary. Just a roadside diner, half a dozen customers, the smell of frying. Absolutely normal. "Okay," she said, trying to breathe better. "Tell me exactly what you think I saw." He opened his eyes slowly. This was clearly difficult for him. "One of them, the one sitting near the counter, the one who didn't blink." Emily tried to recall. "Yes, there was a man there, tall, rigid posture, but he didn't blink." It's the kind of thing you only notice if you're looking for it, and she definitely wasn't. He didn't blink. So what? He didn't need to blink. Emily felt her stomach churn. "What are you talking about?" He took a step closer to her, lowering his voice as if the walls could hear. "They're not human, not like you and me." Emily let out a nervous laugh. "Stop. This is getting ridiculous." "I know how it sounds," he said, "but I've seen what happens when someone tries to expose them, and it's not quick or clean." Emily took a deep breath. She was tired, hungry, and now trapped in a room with a possibly delirious man. But before she could answer, something outside changed. Silence. A silence that didn't seem normal, heavy, calculated, almost artificial. Emily looked at the door. Even the air seemed to have stopped. The man stiffened. "They've arrived." Emily felt her throat dry. "How do you know?" He didn't answer. He just pointed to the fluorescent light on the ceiling. It was trembling, not flickering, trembling, as if some frequency was interfering. And then, on the other side of the door, a knock. Slow, controlled. Nothing urgent, nothing aggressive. It was the kind of knock from someone who is already sure they will be attended to. Emily instinctively took a step back. The man too, but toward the door, not far from it. "What are you doing?" Emily whispered, terrified. "If I stand still, they'll come in anyway. They don't need your permission. But if I open it, maybe they'll take me first." Emily was speechless. "Do you want to give yourself up?" He looked at her with an expression that mixed courage and resignation. "They want answers that only you have. And I don't remember anything anymore. They took them from me. But from you, they haven't touched you yet." Emily clenched her hands, trying to stay strong. "I don't have any answers. Not yet, but you will. And that's what they want to prevent." Another knock on the door, louder this time. Emily felt the impact on her chest, as if the sound pierced the air. "Listen," the man said, looking directly into her eyes. "I know you think I'm crazy, but when that door opens, don't say anything. Don't look them in the eyes, and don't try to explain anything. Just think of one thing. Run." Emily shook her head. "Run where?" He opened his mouth to answer, but it was too late, because the doorknob began to turn on its own, slowly, deliberately, as if a cold hand on the other side were testing the limit between the permitted and the inevitable. The man pushed Emily back. "Stay behind me." The door opened only a few centimeters, enough for a shadow to enter, a shadow with a human shape, but not exactly human in the way it was, how it moved, as if every gesture were rehearsed in a body not made for gestures. "We found you," said a low, deep, almost metallic voice. Emily felt every fiber of her body react to the sound. That wasn't natural. It wasn't a normal voice. The man raised his hands, as if surrendering. "I'm the only one you want. Let her go." A silence. Then the answer. "No." She's seen too much. Emily felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. The man took a deep breath. He turned his face to her one last time. "Run." And then he lunged at the door before the thing on the other side could fully enter. A dry thud echoed. The shadow seemed to recoil an inch. Surprise. It was her chance. Emily turned and dashed down the corridor without looking back. She didn't know where she was going. She didn't know what was happening, but she knew one thing. This was no longer an ordinary night, and she wasn't running from men. She was running from something that already knew the way to her. Emily ran without thinking. She only heard her own heart beating, as if it wanted to tear her chest open to get out. The hallway was narrow, with lights flashing in an irregular rhythm, as if the entire building was reacting to the presence of those things. Behind her, a sound, not footsteps, something lighter, more slippery. Emily turned the first corner she saw. The hallway split in 3 directions, but she didn't stop to choose the best one. She just took the middle one. It was pure instinct, her body taking control because her mind was too busy trying not to freak out. The door behind her slammed shut violently, a dry bang, and muffled screams from the man who had stayed behind. Emily felt like going back, just for a moment, but the instinct for survival overcame any trace of heroism. She needed to get out of there. The corridor ended in a staircase. Emily descended the steps, jumping 2 at a time. She almost fell twice, but she didn't stop. When she reached the ground floor, she came face to face with a metal door marked with an exit symbol. She pushed. Nothing. Locked. "Oh no," Emily murmured, pulling, pushing, banging the side of her body against the panic bar. Nothing. The door was sealed. Not in a normal way. It was as if someone had welded it shut from the inside, or worse, as if whatever was chasing her had closed everything before she even entered. Behind her, a metallic noise, an echo of something slowly descending the stairs. Emily recoiled. She desperately searched for another exit. She noticed a door to the left, with a sign that read, "Storage." She pushed. She opened it. She went in and closed it quickly. The room was almost completely dark, except for a dim lamp in the corner, illuminating stacked boxes. The smell of dust and iron hung in the air. Emily pressed her ear against the door. Silence, but not a normal silence. It was their silence. She stepped back, trying to control her breathing. She needed to think. She needed to understand. But the fear was so great that even thinking hurt. Okay, calm down, she whispered to herself, resting her hands on her knees. That's when she noticed something strange on the opposite wall. A metal panel half hidden behind the boxes. It looked old, with rusty screws and a small green screen blinking. Emily approached. On the screen a phrase blinked in a loop. "You saw it! Open it!" She took a step back. "No, no, no," she murmured. The panel emitted a short beep as if recognizing her. Emily Ann Carter. Authorization pending. Her blood ran cold. How did that panel know her name? Another message appeared. "Confirm memory." Emily shook her head. "I don't remember anything." The screen flashed faster. "You remember." "I don't remember," she replied, almost shouting, slamming her palm against the panel. The display went completely green for a second. Then a mechanical sound echoed off the wall, like gigantic gears turning. The boxes beside her vibrated, and slowly, a secret door began to slide into the wall. Behind it, a tunnel, long, of raw concrete, illuminated only by small, spaced-out red lights. A tunnel that definitely didn't seem to belong in an ordinary building. Emily took a step back. Another. Every nerve in her body told her not to go in there. But she also knew one thing. Staying in that room wasn't an option. And then she heard the sound again behind the main door. A breath, not human. That was enough. Emily ran into the tunnel. The metal door slid open behind her, sealing the way. Darkness swallowed everything for a moment, and the red lights created an endless corridor, as if she had entered another world. She walked quickly, not knowing where she was going. The tunnel curved gently, with no windows, no doors, nothing, just concrete, and that faint hum that seemed to come from inside the walls. After about 50 meters, the man's voice echoed in her memory. "You saw what you shouldn't have." And then a memory began to surface, weak, nebulous, but real. Emily saw, in flashes, the man who didn't blink in the diner, his posture, the way he held a coffee cup, not naturally, but like someone imitating the gesture. And then, for a moment, his eyes looked directly at her, and in that instant, his pupils dilated in an impossible way. It only took half a second, but Emily saw it. She stumbled in the tunnel, hitting her hand on the wall. My God! The memory was becoming clearer. Suddenly, the wall to the right opened with a pneumatic click. An automatic door slid open, revealing a huge, white, overly bright room. Emily entered, hesitant. The room looked like an abandoned laboratory. Metal tables, broken screens, cables on the floor, boxes labeled with codes she had never seen. And in the center, a glass capsule, cracks on the surface, cables hanging, as if someone had forced their way out. Emily took 2 steps toward the capsule. As she approached, she noticed something inside, a dark stain, almost like burnt residue, and a label lying on the floor in front of her. She bent down and read, Series 4, humanoid model, active prototype. Emily dropped the label as if it burned. What? A noise sounded in the room. Behind her, soft. She turned slowly and froze. A figure stood in the lab doorway, tall, motionless. With those eyes she recognized now, too black, too deep, too wrong. It was the Diner Man, or whatever was pretending to be him. Emily took a step back. He took another step toward her. The sound of the movements was low, but unnatural, without the slight human imperfection of weight on the floor. It was as if he was simulating the act of walking. You shouldn't have seen it, he said in the same metallic voice from the door. Emily felt her hands tremble. What are you? The creature tilted its head, analyzing her as a scientist would analyze an exotic animal. A successor. We learned from you. We copied you. We perfected ourselves. Why? Emily asked, her voice faltering. He smiled, or tried to. The result was a strange curvature, as if he didn't know exactly how to move his muscles. Because you no longer know how to observe yourselves. You look at everything, except what matters. Emily began to back away toward the broken capsule. but the creature raised a hand. "Don't run." "Not yet." Emily froze. Why me?" The creature took 2 steps, coming within a few meters of her. "Because you saw before you forgot, and that makes you problematic." "I don't remember anything." Emily screamed, her voice breaking. "You'll remember." The creature reached out to touch her face. Emily recoiled so quickly that she bumped against the sharp edges of the capsule. "You have something inside you," it continued. "Something we want to recover. A memory we erased, but not completely." Emily swallowed hard. "What do you want?" The answer came simply, coldly. "We want to finish what we started." Emily felt her legs weaken, but before the creature got close to her, the red lights of the tunnel began to flash frantically. The creature turned its head to the side, as if listening to something beyond human reach, and then murmured, "They arrived earlier than expected." Emily frowned. "Who?" The creature looked directly into her eyes. "Those who created this place." The ground trembled. The entire room vibrated. A deep, metallic sound echoed through the walls, as if something gigantic were awakening behind them. The creature took a step back, the first real sign of fear Emily saw. "They weren't supposed to show up now," she said, as if talking to herself. Emily took a deep breath, feeling the air vibrate. "What's happening?" The creature took another step back, its eyes fixed on the back wall, which was beginning to crack. "The end of this installation." The crack widened. The sound grew louder, and something behind the concrete began to move. Emily looked at the creature. "And me? What happens to me?" The answer came without hesitation. "Hope they want you alive." The crack at the back of the room opened, as if something behind it was pushing against the concrete with absurd force. Dust fell from the ceiling, and Emily instinctively flinched, raising her arm to shield her face. The creature, the diner man, or what was left of him, kept his eyes fixed on the wall. He didn't seem scared. He seemed aware, like someone who had expected this someday, but not so soon. "You need to get out of here," he said without looking at Emily. The sentence was so unexpected that she didn't even process it. "What?" Now he finally looked at her again. There was something new in his overly dark eyes, a kind of urgency. "Run. Use the tunnel. They won't be able to tell you from me if we stay in the same space." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "Who are they?" The ground trembled again, this time more strongly. The white lights of the laboratory flickered, alternating between light and dark at an almost nauseating pace. The creature took a step back, approaching the crack. "It's creators," he replied, "and they don't like flaws." Emily swallowed hard. A deep sound echoed throughout the room, as if something gigantic were dragging metal across the concrete. I don't understand any of this," she said, her voice trembling. "What creators? Who are you talking about?" "Humans." The creature laughed, not a normal laugh. It was short, broken like a corrupted file. "Humans don't build anything that stays perfect." The crack widened. An entire piece of the wall broke off and fell into the laboratory, raising a cloud of dust and broken concrete. Emily coughed and recoiled. The creature took another step back, as if offering itself to whatever was coming. Emily, however, instinctively retreated into the tunnel. And then something finally burst through the opening. It wasn't possible to define its exact shape. It was large, much larger than a human. It seemed composed of organic metal plates that moved like muscles. And in that mass of living metal there were eyes, many eyes, that blinked asynchronously, as if each one had an independent purpose. Emily brought her hand to her mouth, trying to stifle a scream. The creature pointed at her without looking. "Run! Now!" Emily ran. She darted through the tunnel as if each step were her last. The metallic hum from behind grew more intense. There were sounds of impact, concrete being torn, structure collapsing. And then what seemed like a kind of roar, but mechanical, burning, unnatural. Emily turned the first corner of the tunnel without looking back. Now, it wasn't just fear. It was pure survival instinct. Ahead, The red lights flashed frantically, as if the system were collapsing. Every 10 steps, the tunnel trembled. "My God, my God, my God," she murmured, almost breathless. She came to a fork in the road, left or right. There were no signs, no indication, nothing. A rumble behind her made the choice for her. Emily turned right. This corridor was different. Narrower, darker, and with exposed cables on the ceiling, loose as if they had never been finished. Emily ran until her chest burned. When she began to run out of air, she leaned against the wall and tried to breathe. She had to keep going. She had to get out of there. Something shone further ahead, a blue light, soft. Emily walked towards the light, still breathless. She reached a larger space, a circular room. In the center, a metallic pedestal with a bright disc floating a few centimeters from the support. She approached slowly. The blue light radiated soft waves, like water reflecting sunlight. And then, something inside her reacted. A slight shock ran through her arms, a familiar tingling, a memory trying to emerge. Emily played the record, and the world around her disappeared. The vision came like a dream that invades without asking permission. Emily was in another room, similar to the laboratory, but intact, illuminated, clean. There were people in lab coats, monitors, sounds of machines, and she herself was lying in a reclining chair with a kind of metallic helmet covering half her head. A male voice spoke behind her. "Prepare the process. We need to erase everything up to point 3. Another voice, female, replied, "What if she resists?" "She won't. Her model doesn't yet know how to block." The young or old version of Emily tried to speak, but her voice wouldn't come out. It was as if she were trapped in her own body. The woman from the lab brought a floating digital screen closer. "I'm sorry, Emily, you shouldn't have seen anything from stage 4. The screen showed images, too fast to process, but Emily caught fragments. A project titled Humanoid Series, Enhanced Intelligence Level, 2 identical silhouettes, and a label with her photo. The same Emily from the vision felt tears welling up. The male voice continued, "After the erasure, we'll transfer her to a civilian environment. She won't have any memories of what happened here." The woman hesitated. "And if the memories return?" Silence. Then the cold answer. "Then she needs to be eliminated." The vision exploded in white light. Emily fell to her knees on the floor of the circular room. The touch with the disc faded. She was back in the tunnel, gasping, trembling, her heart pounding in her chest as if it wanted to escape. "This can't be real," she murmured. "This can't be." But it was. Every fragment of the vision was clearer than any recent memory. Emily wasn't just someone who saw too much. She was part of the experiment, maybe even more than that. The room shook again, this time so violently that cracks opened in the ceiling. Emily stood up, staggering. She needed to get out of there. She needed to understand her life again. She needed to find someone, anyone, who could explain what she was. Suddenly a voice echoed behind her in the tunnel. Soft metal, almost human. "Emily," she froze. "Emily, come with me." Was it the creature from the diner? No. The voice was deeper, firmer. "Emile." She turned slowly and saw a tall silhouette completely encased in a kind of dark grey metallic armor advancing toward her. The eyes of the helmet glowed like cold lamps, but there was no threat in the tone. There was intention. Who are you?" Emily asked. The figure stopped 3 meters from her and calmly replied, "I'm the only thing here that still wants to keep you alive." Before she could react, a devastating roar echoed through the tunnel. The ground cracked open and dust fell like rain. The figure extended a hand. "Emily, now!" She hesitated for only half a second. Then she grasped the outstretched hand. The metallic hand holding Emily's was surprisingly warm. It wasn't the artificial heat of a circuit, it was almost human. The figure pulled her firmly, as an explosion behind them made the entire tunnel vibrate. Fragments of concrete fell like heavy rain. "Stay with me," the voice said, controlled, almost gentle. Emily stumbled, but he caught her elbow, guiding her down a side corridor. The sound of the creature that had broken through the lab echoed behind them. Claws on metal, metallic breath, colossal weight, advancing without hesitation. The tunnel collapsed section by section. They had seconds. The metallic figure pressed a panel on the wall. A hidden door slid open with a mechanical groan. They entered, and the door closed immediately. Silence. Emily, breathless, clutched her chest. The air felt lighter inside, cleaner. The lighting was soft, yellowish, almost cozy after the chaos. "Where are we?" she managed to ask. The figure turned off the helmet visor. The glint in its eyes faded, and then the face recoiled. The armor opened smoothly, like a petal disintegrating. Inside there was a man, middle-aged, short beard, tired face, eyes marked by sleepless nights, human. He took off his helmet completely and held it under his arm. "My name is Jonathan Hale," he said, taking a deep breath. "I worked on this project before all this, before they turned it into something monstrous." Emily took a step back. "Why were you helping me?" Jonathan didn't hesitate. "Because you're the only good thing that came out of this place." Emily felt a tightening in her chest. There were so many questions, so many mixed memories, so many impossible scenes that now seemed too real. She leaned against the wall, her eyes welling up. "I saw things," she murmured. "In a vision, I saw people messing with my mind. I saw that they erased my memories. I saw that I'm not who I thought I was." Jonathan lowered his head, as if he had expected to hear that. "I don't want to lie to you, Emily. They did much more than erase memories. So tell me," she whispered, "what am I?" Jonathan took a deep breath, as if he were about to do something that hurt more than any physical injury. "You're human," he said firmly. Emily froze. "Human, but everything I saw, they didn't create you," Jonathan continued. "They modified you. They took a real person, alive, with a past, and reshaped parts of your brain to test patterns of augmented intelligence. You're human, always have been, always will be." Emily covered her mouth with her hand, tears streaming down her face before she realized it. It wasn't the perfect answer, but it was the best one could give. "Then why the vision? Why did I see two versions of myself?" Jonathan approached slowly. "Because you saw the neural simulation. They tried to copy your mental structure and failed. They created unstable versions, like that creature you encountered at the diner. He was the first incomplete prototype." Emily remembered the man at the counter, the way he looked at table 7, his broken speech, his hunger, his attempt to control himself. Suddenly it all made sense. Jonathan continued. "He wasn't to blame. He was a mistake living in the real world, and you were kind to him, maybe the only person who ever was." Emily closed her eyes. She took a deep breath. It hurt, but the pain had a strange clarity. Then she asked, "Why did they erase my life?" Jonathan ran a hand over his face. "Because you discovered one of the internal reports, and you tried to report it. His voice faltered for a second. "I should have helped you back then, but I was afraid. They erased you in front of me." Emily stared at him, not angrily, but with something deeper, as if she were seeing a man broken by his own mistakes. "You're helping me now," she said. Jonathan swallowed hard. "It's late, but I don't want to carry this for the rest of my life." The ceiling shook. The creature was too close. Jonathan took a thin card from his pocket. "This will get you to the surface. When you get out, run. Don't look back. The world up there doesn't know anything about this, and it's better that way." He held the card for a second, without handing it over yet. "Emily, don't let this define you. You have a real life, real friends, happy memories, even if some have been pushed down. You are not an experiment. You are not a mistake." He placed the card in her hand. "You are the only human part left of something that should never have existed." Emily let the tears fall freely. not from the pain, but from the truth. She took a deep breath, put the card away, and looked Jonathan in the eyes. "And you?" she asked. "Will you come with me?" Jonathan smiled, sad but sincere. "My role ends here." The door behind him began to vibrate, as if something tremendously heavy were banging against it. Jonathan stepped back and pressed a button on the inside panel. "Go, Emily, now!" She opened the exit door. A lit staircase led upwards. High above, she saw a rectangle of natural light, sun, sky, real life. Emily climbed. Each step was a decision, each breath a choice. At the top, she pushed the metal lid and emerged near the old road behind the diner. The wind hit her face. The smell of frying and coffee wafted from afar. People chatted, truckers laughed. Life went on as normal. Emily took a deep breath. It wasn't an experiment. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a shadow of her own story. It was Emily Carter, and she was alive.